Welcome back. Episode 26. We are back this week from last week where we did Versus and we talked about Homelander and we talked about, what else did we talk about?
I don't remember, dude. They all run together at a certain point.
They all run together at a certain point, y'all. So if you missed it, go back and watch it. This week we've got some different things going on. We have a revisit of a segment that we haven't done in a while. Trial. We will be talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 today, which is a very, over the years, a very loved and hated film.
Yes.
After that, or I'm sorry, before that, we went ahead and finally watched Infinite Crisis Part 2.
Yep.
Or Crisis on Infinite Earths, excuse me. We have the third one coming out in about 2 weeks from now, so we were like, we should probably go ahead and watch and review that before we, go and watch the third. And I would like to make an asterisk about this episode from something I said last week. I said last week, closing, that we were going to watch and review the first episode of Batman the Caped Crusader. In my brain, I knew it was coming out on the first of a month, and I thought because we were coming out of June and like a trailer had just dropped that week, I was like, oh, it comes out July 1st. It's August 1st. So if you're coming this week to watch that, we apologize.
Yes.
That will be back, that will be around in about
a month or so.
4 weeks, 4-ish weeks, probably 3 from whenever this comes out. So we'll get to it then. All that being said, my name is Gunnar. This is my cousin Scott. And we're going to get straight into it with our Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 review. So why don't you go ahead and give us some of your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so I feel like with this one, there's not a whole lot to go over, comparatively speaking, to the first one. The movie is about the same length as the first one, but a lot of it...
I feel like hurt it.
Yeah, but I feel... excuse me. I feel like a lot of it was just set up for this movie that we just got. In my opinion, I do not remember his name, and you can roast me in the comments for not remembering his name. What is the main guy's name with the red and yellow?
Oh, Psycho Pirate?
Psycho Pirate, yes. He was the most interesting part of the movie.
He was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, he was the best part of the movie.
I wrote the exact same thing down.
Yeah, because like the stuff with Supergirl, the stuff with the Monitor, like we didn't really get to see the Anti-Monitor. He made like a cameo, which was a little disappointing because I thought we'd see him in this movie, but it kind of makes sense. But anyway, he was the best part of the movie. He has a really cool backstory. He's kind of like a tragic villain turned psychopath, which obviously it's in his name.
In the name.
You kind of we get to go back in time to the World War II movie and kind of see like where he came from, how he got to be in that position, how he's a former Nazi, which all of that was super cool to see. He's the best part of the movie.
Well, I love the line of dialogue when he says, because his whole gimmick is that he's able to basically use, it's like the Jedi mind trick. He can make people do what he wants them to do. And he goes, oh, I love Nazis. They were already so brainwashed, they were easy to use.
Yeah,
and I was like, that was a pretty good line of dialogue.
Yeah. The other thing about it is, I can cut them some slack a little bit on this issue that I had with the movie. The action was just kind of there. Like, it wasn't necessarily underwhelming.
There were much like in a wrestling match, there were good spots.
Yes.
But overall, it was very generic.
Right, because like I can cut them some slack because of the fact that like if you watch the first movie and if you read the comics, like the whole towers, they have to keep them up and running so that the wave doesn't consume their reality. So like a lot of the movie, like you've got Batman and Superman and it wasn't Gorilla Grodd. Who was the gorilla?
Oh,
it was like the head of Gorilla City.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
It starts with an S.
Anyway, him. So like they're all having to like guard their post, and so they're fighting off all these monsters who are trying to destroy the towers. Like were sent by the Anti-Monitor. So like it makes sense why some of the action, like we weren't traveling to different worlds and getting different fights between different heroes and villains and all of that. Like it makes sense why it had to be that way. It just I feel like it could have been done a different way that would have been a little bit more interesting. The last point I have, it's not really a big thing, but like it was cool to see Batman Beyond. was kind of cool.
Yeah, and we got to see the same voice actor come back.
Yeah.
Which it was weird seeing him in a different animation.
Right.
Because like with Kevin Conroy, like he did a bunch of different Batman animations.
Well, yeah, he's done video games.
With Will
movies.
Freddy, it was always just Batman Beyond, and then so seeing him in like a different, it was like, oh, that's weird.
He did look pretty cool.
But it was sweet. Yeah, so a lot of the same thing you said. I just felt like a lot of it dragged. Like I feel like had they cut this down, which it's hard because of what they're charging for these movies now. Yeah. Which, by the way, what they're charging for these straight to DVD movies are insane. But compared to what they used to be. You know, you used to be able to get out of school on a Tuesday and go buy the newest Justice League Dawn of Atlantis movie for $17.99, and now it's like $30.
Just to get it off the TV.
Just to get it off the TV. But anyway, yeah, I just thought, which you can't cut too much time down because of what you're asking for people to pay for it. But I feel like had they cut this down to, the runtime was about an hour and 28. Had this been cut to about an hour to 12, hour to 15, there was just a lot that dragged. Like, especially with the Supergirl stuff. So a lot, very similarly to in the first one, where it's a Justice League movie, but the Flash is the main character of the film.
Right.
Same thing goes here. It's a Justice League movie with Supergirl as the main character. And it was very intriguing for about the first 10 minutes of her stuff, her arc. And then it just started to kind of become like,
okay, let's move on.
Let's get to it. Yeah, let's get to it. It just became, it was kind of just dragging. And then her whole interaction with Psycho Pirate, it just feels very like, it felt just very out of place to me.
Yeah.
It felt super out of place. And I didn't really understand that. And then she has the ending she has. And it's just all kind of like, okay. Whereas with Flashes, it was a continuous, it was here, climax. And it all streamlined and made sense, and you're like, okay, that was the story of the Flash in the first movie. Whereas with this, it was like there were points in the film where I was like, wait, why is she doing this?
Yeah.
Like I was getting lost because of how much they were jumping. And then when they would jump to something else, it would drag, and then it would go straight into something else that didn't make any sense. Yeah, I said a lot. This whole entire movie setup. So, like, I would say if you haven't seen it yet, but you want to go see it because obviously you want to watch part 3.
Right.
But you want to enjoy your hour and a half of watching this, go in with the mindset that this is an entire movie to set up. Had we done that, we probably would have been able to enjoy it a little bit more. But because we were watching it just going in fresh, not knowing anything, and we were like, when the movie ended, we were kind of like, all right, well, that was it. Yeah, so and then like I said, also kind of with Supergirl stuff, I said this for the whole movie. A lot of it just felt really jumpy. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but it just felt really like they were doing so many cuts to different things, and it was this, then that, and
yeah, because
it didn't feel like,
because they had 3 different storylines. They had the Supergirl storyline, they had the Psycho Pirate storyline, and then they had like Batman and
the Justice League storyline.
Yeah, so like it was Batman with all the like Huntress and Robin and
the Bat family
and all of that, and then there was like the Gorilla one. There was like Superman had a quick whatever, and it was just like I think if they had just kept it to 2, like if you just said Supergirl and the Psycho Pirate or Batman and the Psycho Pirate, I feel like it would have been a lot easier to, because like it was getting to the point like halfway through the movie, I'm just like, okay, I just want to see the Psycho Pirate stuff. Like I don't really. And like see
it was the best stuff.
See some cool stuff with like Batman and Batman Beyond. Like other than that, I don't really care about the rest of this. Which again, I understand you have to get through it to get to the third part, which we actually are really excited for because watching the trailer looks really interesting.
It looks great.
Yeah, but I just felt like there were, I don't know if jumping is the right word. I just feel like there was too much going on.
I was gonna say you have a film degree, so you could probably word that better than I can.
Because they were trying to, because you only got an hour and a half for these animated movies. You've got 5, 6 different storylines you're trying to cram in an hour and a half. If they had kept 2 at max 3, I feel like it would have been.
So then you're saying for clarification for the audience, it wasn't a jumpy film. They were trying to fit too much into a smaller time
Yes,
frame.
because if you go back and watch the first movie, they jumped a lot more than they did in the second movie. But it was with just one character, the Flash, going to different realities and different times.
Yes.
So, and yes, there were times where you get lost in that movie, but at the end, it
all
tied together, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. With this movie, you're jumping back and forth between all these different stories with different characters. There's not one thread that's keeping it together.
Yeah.
And even still, like even with the Flash, like when he was jumping, he was only jumping between like 3 or 4 different timelines. This one you had like 6 different stories.
Yeah, it was a bunch of different. So I mean, in closing, my pro, just so I don't completely take a crap on it, my pros were the Bat Family fight you see in the trailer. That is pretty sick.
Yes.
The Bat Family throwdown is pretty sick. Mm-hmm. Seeing Batman Beyond is pretty sick. The Adam Warlock and the gorilla from Gorilla City. Is it Salvatore? Salvatore. It's Salvatore.
Is it?
It's Salvatore.
I'll take your word for it.
Salvatore. That they have a showdown with a certain army from the Anti-Monitor. That's great. So there are great spots, and like I said, it's like a bad wrestling match with good spots.
Yes.
Like there's stuff you can enjoy to get through it. And yeah, it's just definitely watch it because you need to watch it to set up for the third. And if nothing else, the Psycho Pirate stuff is, like he said, it's the best stuff in the movie. Yes, it's really good.
That was really interesting.
Some of the Supergirl stuff is really good, and then some of the Justice League stuff is really good. Just in terms of ratio, it was probably more like 35% not or good, 65% not great. So you're having to deal with a little bit more of the setup and stuff.
There was a lot of potential here. I just don't think.
Yes. All that being said, we're very excited for the third one. And what rating did you give it out of 10?
I gave it a 6.5.
I gave it a 6.7.
Okay.
Okay, so we're right there. So yeah. So that's kind of our overall thoughts for it. Obviously, this isn't really one that you have an option to watch. If you are watching the slate, you need to watch this one.
Yeah.
Just like we said, go into it with the mindset of it being set up and you'll be able to enjoy it more. So after that, we will go straight into our trial segment with The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Welcome back to a segment we haven't really touched in a little while. We're doing trial by movie or trial by hero. So today we're talking about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So yes, this is a very polarizing movie. You know, I know Andrew has gotten a lot more love here in the last couple of years because of No Way Home. But when this movie came out, there were a lot of people that hated this movie. But let's go ahead and get your kind of overall thoughts, and then we'll kind of jump into specifics later on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one thing I will say about this movie is, for whatever reason, the female population loved this movie. Loved this. I mean,
Well, the female population loved Andrew Garfield just in general.
That's true, but specifically, like my girlfriend my ex-girlfriend loved this movie. But yeah, I don't hate TASM 2. It's never been like it's probably 5 for me. It's like the Tobey movies, the first Andrew, and then this. I think this is the kind of movie where it's like, I'll relate it to like a Batman Forever, where there was a lot of actually, like if you go back and watch Batman Forever, there's a lot of good. There's actually a lot of good in the movie, and there's a lot of potential, but then just like they kind of fumble the ball.
Right.
And that's kind of what this was my takeaway from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Just for some quick pros, because I'll quickly go over this. This is like his guilty pleasure Spider-Man movie, so he'll talk more about this than I will.
I'll get into it, don't worry.
For my quick pros were obviously the cinematography, the shots in this. You get some of the best Spider-Man visuals and shots from this movie out of all Spider-Man lore. It's arguably, obviously, I will always pick the Tobey suit as my favorite suit, but objectively, is that how you say that? Objectively, this is the best live-action Spider-Man suit we'll probably ever get. I don't think there will ever be anything close to it. It's not up for debate. This is also in Spider-Man 2, the game, it's one of the best suits. Like it looks unreal. I thought the relationships were handled really well in this. The stuff between, obviously everybody points the stuff between Peter and Gwen because this is where Gwen dies and you see Peter deal with the death of Gwen. But even, I think the Peter and Harry stuff in this was great because, now granted, if you're not a fan of the way Harry's goblin character goes, I get that. But you have to keep in mind, they're still within the time frame of Spider-Man 3. And even though Spider-Man 3 wasn't received great, everybody loved the ending of the Peter and Harry story.
Yes.
And so they're having to directly compete with that. And so they're having to do it in a fresh take, in a fresh way. And I think they did a very creative thing where they're like, he's sick, he's dying, it's your childhood best friend, this is the only way to save him, da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, I thought that was all done really well. I also think the actor that played Harry, he's apparently gone on to do some pretty big stuff. But I thought he was great. I think the stuff with him and not his mom, with Aunt May is great. I think the deleted scenes you see where his dad's revealed that he's not actually dead, and he's talks to his dad, and
that would have been really interesting to see in the third movie, but
he's talking to Gwen, which I don't know why they cut those two scenes out. The scene at Gwen's grave and where he's talking to his dad, I don't know why they cut that. But also, I think Jamie Foxx's Electro is unironically very good.
I think he's okay.
I think do you know why I think his Electro is great? Because I don't think enough people cut him slack for the fact that Electro a lot of times is a very goofy villain. A lot of times Electro's a very goofy villain. So it's not like he got cast as the Joker or Green Goblin or Magneto or Lex Luthor, where he's got this large base of serious villainous lore he can go and study and kind of go, okay. A lot of times he's the guy that shoots electricity out of his hands. He's been portrayed as a pretty goofy character for a lot of time. And so he went and made it his own, and I think he nailed the whole dorky Oscorp worker. Like, he did that to perfection. I say that because you really feel for him. Like, right when he becomes Electro, you're like, oh man, no. Like you don't want him to go bad. Like, you actually are feeling for him. And then I think just the visual of him was great. I love the look of him. I think Jamie Foxx's Electro does not get... I'm by no means saying it's one of the greatest comic book villains ever, or movie villains ever.
Careful, because there'll be people who think
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think Jamie Foxx's... And we can clip this. Yeah. I think Jamie Foxx's Electro deserves more credit for what he did in that movie with what he was given than what he gets. That's my opinion. So.
Yeah. Well, so like you said, this is kind of my... I know it is not the best Spider-Man film by any means. I can acknowledge that probably all three of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are better than this movie. I totally get that. However, this is one of my guilty pleasure movies. Just to quickly run over it, I'm a big soundtrack guy. And Hans Zimmer, if I'm sure everyone knows who that is.
Does Hans Zimmer do this soundtrack?
Hans Zimmer does the soundtrack for this movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like the electro dubstep, a lot of people didn't like that. I really
that was pretty cool.
Really did like that rendition of that. The theme for Spider-Man that they did in this movie, I was so sad that they did not keep it for No Way Home, and then they said they used the first movie's theme, even though it is first movie's theme is pretty good. I think the second movie's theme is way better because you get the scene that, like, I think is one of the best Spider-Man scenes we've gotten, is where that theme is playing and he's swinging through New York in, like, the first shot POV.
Oh, you mean where he's falling? Free falling?
This movie has, like, some of the best choreographed, like, swing scenes and visuals of,
sure.
dare I say, possibly any Spider-Man movie. Kind of going over the relationships. When you were talking about the relationships. The director of this movie, his name is Mark Webb. Yes, I know his last name is ironic. But before he directed the Spider-Man movies, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, he did like a lot of like rom-coms and like
I remember
tragic love stories and stuff like that. So like, I think kind of what you were saying, he did a fantastic job of relationships, not only in the second movie but in the first movie. With Gwen, with Aunt May, and then in the second movie... Captain Stacy. Then in the second movie you have Gwen again. You've got Harry Osborn. And I think that... the thing about the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I think that is probably the best love interest we've gotten of any Spider-Man. Between... As much as we all love MJ, I do think that... Like, I
think she was the best in terms of, like... an actual rooting for true love story. I know everybody hates Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane. We can't act like it wasn't very entertaining.
No, it wasn't. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what I was about to say
I will defend the Tobey movies with everything I have.
I'm not saying that she did a bad job. What I'm saying is that in the story itself, like, MJ loved Peter for Spider-Man, Gwen Stacy loved...
Oh,
Spider-Man for Peter Parker. Like, it felt like a more intimate relationship. Yeah. And, like, it was actually, like, they were truly in love and not this, like, again, as much as I love the Sam Raimi movies, it didn't feel as much as like a soap opera, like going back and forth, like will they, won't they, whatever. Which, not that there wasn't that in the Amazing movies, but...
One really quick note I do think people need to realize, and I'm not going to go on a tangent, I just think this is important on your note. Even if you go into the comic books, that is comic book accurate. I don't think enough people realize that. Like the comparison between Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, and Kirsten Dunst. Like, no, I know you know that. I'm saying like Gwen Stacy was always of her and what's the other one? Liz?
Liz, yeah.
Like, they've always loved Peter for Peter. Not that Mary Jane doesn't love Peter for Peter, but like it was always much more of a strong feeling for Peter.
Right.
Whereas forever in comics, Mary Jane, always being the girl next door, always kind of dismissed Peter, even though she maybe did feel some kind of way. She always dismissed it.
Right.
Then the whole Spider-Man factor comes in. Da-da-da-da-da. I just really quick for everybody that hates on that dynamic, it's from the comic books.
Right.
So just know that.
Yes.
Please continue. I'm sorry.
What I was saying was is on screen for Spider-Man.
Yes.
Is what I was addressing.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is the only Spider-Man movie where they had the cojones to actually kill the girlfriend of Spider-Man's. Like, I don't think that we're...
Gosh, dude, do you remember the lead up to this and how everyone was like, are they going to do it?
Are they actually going to do it? Because everyone was afraid that they were going to do the cop-out where, like, they're going to have the falling from the bridge or falling from the clock tower scene, but, like, he's going to end up saving her.
Right.
Or, like, she'll go to the hospital and she'll be fine in 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, when they actually did it, like, everyone was like, oh, okay, like, even though this movie is not great, like, they actually did it. Like, they followed through and did what they were supposed to for Spider-Man. And, like, seeing the...
Andrew did such a good job.
Not only within the scene itself of, like, him losing his mind that his girlfriend just died because of him and he wasn't able to save her, but, like, even though I think, in my opinion, that they should have... Gwen dies, you get the funeral scene, and then the movie ends. I don't think that he should have returned to the third movie. Like, the whole first act of the first movie.
I don't disagree, but I'm sure Mark Webb knew that the third one was questionable.
Yes,
so he was like, all right, I'm going to try and close this a little bit.
Like I said, there are things that they would have changed. I think this could have been one of the best Spider-Man movies ever, on par with maybe some of the Sam Raimi movies. And that's one of my things is, like, visually, soundtrack-wise, whatever, and not only what they did, but, like, the potential of this movie that it had, I think is one of the reasons why it holds a special place in my heart and why I will defend it, even though I know that it's not a great movie. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was really all I had to say about it. So
you know what the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like? And I know I always make comparisons to wrestling, but it's just because it makes sense.
Yeah.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a lot like Ricochet. Like, you have a great look, you visually look great, you're great in the ring, you can do everything physically,
there's one thing that you fall short on.
You can't get on the mic and talk.
Yeah.
It's like there's just that, and like that's the thing with the Amazing Spider-Man 2. If you were to ask me to pinpoint what it is, I couldn't even like go, oh, it's this, because I feel like what really hurt it is, it's not even one thing. It's like it's a bunch of really small.
It's like
things.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
It's death by 1,000 cuts. Because, like, everybody for a long time was like, oh, it's Goblin. And it's like, okay, but it's not, though. Just because you don't like the way he looks doesn't mean the movie's bad. The actual story of that wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I think if they had kept that and just, first of all, saved him for the third movie, like he was going to come back and that's what the third movie was going to be. Plus, you might introduce the Venom symbiote. Like, there's a lot of things that they could have done. But yeah, I think kind of like what you said, there's a lot of really good things about the movie, but then there's also a lot of like little minor things that add up at the end of the movie to where you're like, there was so much good in that movie, but there was also a lot of bad, and it just kind of cancels each other out.
Yeah.
Where it's a lot of people forget about the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So everyone talks about the first one, but everyone kind of like tries to forget about the second one.
We say all that to say, go give it a rewatch.
Yes,
you might be pleasantly surprised.
Correct.
After that, we're going to go straight into Read of the Week. Okay, so for this week's Read of the Week, some of you have already saw this if you follow the shorts. We did a short on this when I ordered it and got it in like a couple months back, but it is the Batman Beyond 25th Anniversary Compendium. I picked this one because since we were talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths and Batman Beyond, all the fans were excited, wanted to do this. This thing is awesome. So I love it for many reasons. Number one being, it is like season number 4 for the show. It's great.
Oh, okay.
It's like it really is. They keep all the same villains. They keep the same relationship like aspects. So like when you're reading this, they'll make reference to stuff that had happened in the show already with other villains, and it's like tied into this, which is great. You know, you gotta love when there's a payoff for watchers and readers paying attention, right? Also, it really is like when I say it's the 4th season. This is my favorite thing about this. I got to get into bed every night before I went to bed to unwind, and I got to read an episode of Batman Beyond that I hadn't seen yet. Like that's what this book is. It's a pretty thick boy. It's a little over 700 pages. It's like 720, 730 pages. It's a big compendium.
Do we get the future Justice League in this at all?
Yes, you do.
Okay,
you do.
Cool.
So yeah, you get everything that was touched on in the show in the first 3 seasons. You get some kind of touch on in this. The relationship between Bruce and Terry's just expanded on in this, which is great. Honestly, that might be my favorite thing about the book. Yeah. It's just continuing to be able to watch their relationship grow, because then, especially once you read these add-ons and these fill-ins, it's great, because then when you go and watch like the Justice League and you see the Batman Beyond episode with the old Bruce, it just adds more context to that. I would also say pick this up because this is a great introduction to Terry. Like, people forget, Batman Beyond was originated from the animated show. Like, it wasn't a comic book. Like, they invented him for the show. So this is straight from the creators of the character, straight from the creators of the show that made this book. I love it. The feel of it's great. It's like that. It's not the glossy, crappy paper. It's like that good matte, thick cover. The art in it's great. I mean, the art in it's fantastic. I would also say what's great is a lot of times when you'd run into these 90s books is the dialogue would not be great, but like the dialogue in this is fantastic. Like they didn't write this for kids. It's for kids, obviously, but like this is the same thing. What they always try to do, these writers,
just a little darker,
is they try and gear it for adults to enjoy as well. One of my favorite, actually, I flipped to it on accident. I don't know if you can see it from here, but one of my favorite issues from this, and like this is just a great reason to get it, is if you remember the Splicers arc, where you have the people taking animal DNA to become hybrids.
Yeah.
The I can't remember his name, but the villain who created the serum has found a way to make complete transformations. So like now, if you want to be a tiger, you can be a tiger. And then he's also created a flip antidote, or not an antidote, a serum where like he can shoot a tiger and it gives him a human brain. So like he can communicate and he knows what's happening. Like it's a fully conscious animal.
That sounds dangerous.
It's terrifying. I'll leave it at this. You get to see a white tiger team up with Batman Beyond to take this dude out.
That's cool.
It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick. Just to give you an idea. The other thing with this is what's great is, just for an example like that, they got way more freedom with this. So you can see them really get their creative juices flowing in this book. It's just, this one's one of my favorites. I burned through this thing. Pick this up. Right now it's going for $60. I think it's actually a little bit cheaper on eBay. I think you can get it for like right under 50. But yeah, guys, pick this one up. It's a great add to your library. It's a great read, and if you're wanting to get into the Batman Beyond character, this is where I would say to start. And that is this week's Read of the Week. Second week of rotation. We are on This or That. So, yeah, let's get straight into it.
So, I'll go first. So, for my first This or That question. This is a character question, so 2 different characters. Okay. Whatever you pick, you can never read or watch or play.
I don't get the lore.
Yes. The Hulk or Spawn?
Ooh, wow. That's like deep in the recesses of my fandom.
A little off the wall.
Oh gosh, man.
You can only pick one.
Oh man. See, the reason this is difficult is because the Spawn movies aren't great. The Incredible Hulk is one of my favorite comic book movies. But then when it comes to books, I would pick Spawn.
Well, it's pretty much like the one you grew up with or the new one that has captured your attention.
Oh man. Just because there's more of him, I'd have to go with Hulk, actually. I'd have to go with Hulk. As much as I love Spawn, like you said, Hulk was like, he's not anymore, but when I was a kid, my 2 favorites were Hulk and Batman.
Yeah.
And just between the 90s Hulk animated show, The Incredible Hulk, like I just said, is one of my favorite comic book movies. The '03 Hulk, even though it's ridiculous, I still love it. The Hulk, even though I just said I love Spawn books more than I love Hulk books, the Hulk books are still fantastic. So yeah, I'd have to go with Hulk. Now, with the rumored Spawn content we're getting over the next few years, that answer might change in a few years.
Yeah.
But as of right now, it's Hulk. So yeah, okay. Dang, that was a good one, man. Okay, so mine is
the first one I thought it was like, yeah, that's
so
going in there.
mine's a little off the wall, similar to yours last week.
Okay.
It's a movie question.
Movie question. Okay.
Indiana Jones or Rocky?
Ooh.
For those of you that don't know, he loves Indiana Jones.
I do.
I think there's about the same number of them too, yeah?
No.
There's not?
No, because there's 5 Indiana Jones movies now. I don't really count the new one.
Yeah.
And there's 6 Rocky movies?
6 Rockies.
Plus, would Creed count in that too?
You know what? I'll make it harder. No. You could still watch Creeds. It's just the 6 Rockies or the 4 or 5 Indiana Jones.
I might have to go with Rocky.
Really? I figured you'd pick Indiana Jones.
The only reason is because the very first Indiana Jones movie is fantastic. The second one's okay. I've seen it before. It wasn't my favorite, but it's okay. The third one I enjoy, and then 4 is not great, and then I refuse to watch 5 because everyone said
what they did to the character.
What they did to the character. So, but with Rocky, 1, 2, 3, 4 are all fantastic.
And 6 is pretty solid.
And 6 is not bad. So, like, as much as I love Indiana Jones and I grew up with Indiana Jones, I did grow up with Rocky as well, but that was a little later. I might have to pick Rocky. Because,
Rocky, okay.
Yeah.
There's just more to enjoy.
There's just more to enjoy, and because really, whenever I go back and rewatch Indiana Jones, I usually watch the first one and maybe the third one, and that's about it.
I got you. So, okay. All right. So what is your second?
My second one is actually a company question. So this one, if whatever company you choose, the other one will never exist.
Okay.
DC Comics or the WWE?
Oh, man!
So either no Batman,
you're outing me for my wrestling nerdom.
Yeah, so either no Batman, Superman, Flash, all of that, or no
Stone Cold
Undertaker,
Steve Austin,
Stone Cold
Undertaker,
Steve, or Edge.
Edge and Cena. I mean, I gotta go DC.
You'd have to.
I'd have to go DC. As much as I love wrestling, like, Batman is my... You could have said Batman, and I would have picked Batman.
Yeah.
As much as I love wrestling, there was a pretty solid point in time where I stopped watching wrestling. I've never not consumed DC Comics. Right. So yeah,
always in some manner.
As much as I love WWE, it'd have to go DC. If you were asking me Marvel or WWE, that might change.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd have to go DC Comics. Man, that was rough.
I should have asked that then.
Yeah, because Marvel, WWE.
That would be a little closer.
Essentially, it comes down to the Raimi movies or WWE for me. But yeah, okay. So all right. So my second one is a Nightwing solo game.
Okay.
Or a Luke Skywalker solo game.
Oh,
that's hard.
That's a hard one.
That's hard. For context, Rocksteady would make Nightwing.
Okay.
And then Naughty Dog would make the Luke Skywalker game.
Ooh, okay.
I got specific with game devs.
I might have to go with the Luke Skywalker one.
What?
Yeah, only because we've gotten the Arkham games and I can still play as Nightwing, plus we have Gotham Knights, so I can still play as Nightwing.
Yeah, that's true. You could technically make it a Nightwing solo game if you want to.
Other than the Battlefront games, we haven't really gotten like Luke Skywalker. I mean, there was one game back in the day where like you could kind of play as Luke Skywalker.
Well, and like in one, I don't remember if it's the first or the second Battlefront in the story. There's like a point in time.
That's what I'm saying. Like there have been games before you get to play with him for a certain mission or a certain point in the game, but like never just like Luke Skywalker's the main character and you get a full AAA game out of that. Yeah. I'd have to pick that one.
Luke. Wow. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay. This one is which on-screen fight would you rather see?
Oh, interesting.
And this is a Star Wars question.
We haven't done either one of these yet.
Yeah, so would you rather see Mace Windu versus Darth Maul, or would you rather see Mando versus Boba Fett?
Oh. Those are like my 4 favorite Star Wars characters.
And like it would be both fights would be just fantastic fights.
Do I get to pick who wins on either side? Or do I have to watch and see?
You have to, like, it's made and you have to watch it. So, like, however it ends, it ends. But the fight itself, regardless of who wins, it would be stellar.
Okay, which is this Clone Wars Maul, or for context of the conversation, Phantom Menace Maul?
Let's go Clone Wars Maul.
Oh, well, that makes it harder. Jeez, man. You know, I think I'd pick Mando and Boba.
Really?
Only because I think Mace Windu would beat Darth Maul.
Oh, and you don't want to
I don't want to watch. I don't want to risk watching Maul lose.
Yeah, but Mace Windu is one of your favorite Jedi, though.
He is, but like,
you don't want to see Maul lose?
Reason I pick Mando and Boba is two reasons. I have a plethora of great Maul fights. Whereas with Mando and Boba, it's like the two best bounty hunters in the universe going. Also, for me, as much as I love Maul and he's my favorite character, my favorite thing in Star Wars is watching non-Force users fight. So watching the two most that's the thing, their weapons go deep. Just the hand-to-hand, watching Mando and Boba. Also, because I truly don't know who would win that. If I had to put money, I'd probably pick Boba. I'd probably have to pick Boba Fett on money, but you can never count out Din Djarin. You just can't. So yeah, as much as that might be a shock, I'd have to go with Mando and Boba just because the fight itself is a little bit more up my alley, and it's something I haven't already seen yet.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd pick Mando or Boba. Okay, so for this one, I may know your answer, but we've never actually talked about it straight up, so I'm very interested. Spider-Man 1 or Spider-Man 2?
Spider-Man 2.
Really? Yeah. That quick, huh?
It used to be Spider-Man 1.
I was going to say, because I know you've always kind of fluctuated.
It used to be Spider-Man 1, a lot of it due to Gabi.
Just to Defoe's Goblin.
Yes, but I think Spider-Man 2, it's one of those, it used to be Spider-Man 1 was my favorite movie, and then I would acknowledge that Spider-Man 2 is the better movie.
Right.
But now as I've gotten older, I can obviously relate to Spider-Man 2
a
lot more. And so when I watch it, obviously I would much rather see Goblin than, even though Doc Ock is great in that movie, than Doc Ock. I think there's a lot more in the movie to enjoy as you get older with Spider-Man 2, and it's become my favorite of the franchise.
I got you. So you think it ages a little bit better?
Yes. I think Spider-Man 1 is that's every kid's favorite answer because it's it's Spider-Man 1, he becomes Spider-Man, you get to see Green Goblin. And all that. And then, as you get older, you can relate to Spider-Man 2 a lot more. And the lessons within Spider-Man 2, they actually make real-world sense and not just them saying it. So.
Okay, wow. Well, yeah, I was not expecting that quick of an answer, but all right. So, yeah. Going into your fourth one.
Fourth one. This is another character question.
Okay.
Deathstroke or Darkseid? It was going to be the Joker versus Darkseid, but I knew you were probably going to pick Joker.
Oh, man. Is this I'm just picking which character I like more?
So
it's all the lore?
It's the same thing as the Hulk or Spawn question.
Oh, bro. See, because the difficulty becomes, if you were to ask me character, I'd probably pick Darkseid, but there's more Deathstroke content. Oh, man.
But you also do have to remember, if you don't pick Darkseid, you don't get a lot of the Justice League stuff.
Yeah, I know. But if I don't pick Deathstroke, I don't get a lot of Batman stuff.
This is true.
I don't get to play Origins.
Oh, yeah.
I don't get to play Origins. Also, objectively, the Deathstroke comics are probably better. Oh, gosh, dude.
Go with your gut.
I'm going to have to pick Darkseid.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pick Darkseid only because, like you just said, Joker and Darkseid, I would have picked Joker. But Darkseid's my second favorite villain in comic books. Deathstroke's probably number 3.
Yeah.
But just like you said, there's just more... Even though there's more content with Deathstroke, and I probably enjoy more of the content with Deathstroke just in terms of books, but with Darkseid, I get a lot of the. I miss all of the DCAU stuff.
Yes.
From Superman the Animated Series to Justice League. I would miss out on like Justice League War, Dark Apocalypse. And then even though it's not as good, the New 52 Justice League run with Darkseid's great. The Fourth World stuff with Jack Kirby's great. Even like Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. Yeah, I'd have to go Darkseid. Also because one of the biggest distinctions and why I just chose that, I thought about it last second. A lot of Deathstroke's content ends up being about his family, and I don't like that.
Oh yeah.
I hate when they.
Because you just want to see Deathstroke.
I just want to see Deathstroke, like especially if you go into that Christopher Priest run in the Rebirth run. It's great, but it's like, dude, I don't care that much about Jericho, and I don't care that much about his wife, and I don't care that much about Rose. Like, they're cool to see in certain iterations, but like when the entire run is about them and they're taking up page time from Slade, I'm like, I just want to see Deathstroke.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those reasons, wow, that was a great question. But yeah, as much as it hurts, I'd have to pick Darkseid.
Yeah.
So
I figured it'd be that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So for my fourth, this is technically an episode run, but because they made a DVD release, I'm counting it as a movie.
Okay.
World's Finest or Mask of the Phantasm?
Probably Mask of the Phantasm.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I figured the Superman in you would hold off on
Yes, as much as I love Superman, because I know that's your favorite movie of all time.
Mask of the Phantasm is my favorite movie of all time.
It's not my favorite movie of all time, but it's pretty. Of my top 10 movies, it would probably be like 5 or 6.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'd have to pick Mask.
Really? I was really thinking that was going to trip you up and you'd pick World's Finest.
Yeah, I'd have to pick Mask because like I can relate to Batman.
I think we all can.
I think we all can relate to Batman in that.
That's a movie
scenario.
for the boys.
And it's just like it's Batman the animated series on steroids. Like it's just you like that is the Batman Kevin Conroy in movie form. Like I'd have to pick that movie.
It's peak Mark Hamill Joker. Yeah. Just all of it's also just because of the fact that it was a movie and they were able to make it a little bit darker.
Yeah.
So okay, all right. So what is your last question?
Last question is also a little bit off the wall.
Okay.
So this is what Elseworld story would you rather see?
Okay.
Batman as a Viking or the Joker as a pirate? For context, he loves Vikings and pirates, so...
Okay, I need a little context.
Okay.
When you're saying Batman as a Viking, would it be similar to like Gotham by Gaslight in that because Batman would very much so disagree with the way of the Vikings.
Right. Like he's in that era and he comes from a tribe within.
Okay, but it's like Gotham.
But he can have like Viking gear.
Right, so it's Gotham by Gaslight, but Batman in like Scandinavian peak Viking
and then
era.
Joker is a pirate. It's just like he's a captain of a ship and they're all Joker themed. And they go and they kill people and whatever. Cause chaos.
Batman is a Viking.
Yeah.
Batman is a Viking. I number one in terms of historical stuff that I get into more. Vikings are my favorite timepiece of history. And yeah, seeing like a Gotham by Gaslight story as Batman in that era would just be because then you create the option for him to go after the Vikings because he finds out what the Vikings are doing and he's like, well, yeah, I don't agree with any of this. So
you get Viking versus Batman.
So it's like Viking Batman versus like a tribe of Vikings.
Yeah.
And just that combat, because at the time the Vikings combat was the best in the world.
Right.
And so you get to see a Batman like that. Those combat sequences would be insane. So yeah, I'd pick Batman versus Viking.
Batman with a battle axe.
Yeah, dude. I'd have to go Batman versus Viking. That's a good one. Okay. So for my last one, I think this one will trip you up a little bit.
Okay.
Similar to the What If in the Marvel, how Marvel has the animated What If.
Okay.
Would you rather a DC Comics animated What If or a Star Wars animated What If?
Star Wars.
Not even thinking about it.
Star Wars, 100%.
Wow.
100% Star Wars.
Wow.
I would want to see a What If of...
Hang on, really quick before you continue. Think of the story of Flashpoint.
No, I'm not saying that the DC one wouldn't be good. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that the what if potential for Star Wars, there's so many stories that you could do, just with Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader alone, and it's never been done. Like, we've seen what if stories with DC before, like alternate versions or whatever.
Right.
With Star Wars, you very rarely, if ever, get something like that. So if they were to, would this be a comic run or would this be like?
This would be the animated, like Marvel's What If.
Yeah. So like, seeing you get to see, what if Obi-Wan turned to the dark side? What if Anakin didn't turn to the dark side? What if Padme didn't die? What if Luke Skywalker turned to the dark side at the end of it? What if Order 66 failed? There's so many different things.
You're saying because Star Wars is much more of a choice story.
Yes.
That it's so much of a one decision happened that caused ripple effects.
Exactly, because with DC, you have so many different universes, so many different alternate storylines. With Star Wars, there's one timeline and that's Star Wars. So if you were to do a what if story at what if Qui-Gon Jinn didn't die, that would completely derail the entirety of Star Wars.
That's a good point.
So what would happen if Qui-Gon Jinn didn't die and he killed Darth Maul? There's just so many scenarios that you could see that it would be so interesting to see if this happened or if this didn't happen. So
yeah,
that's why I would choose Star Wars.
Okay, yeah.
So
I understand. Yeah. I understand your answer.
This was a very interesting.
This was a good, good this or that.
We had a lot of off the wall answers, but and
come
questions.
back next week. We'll be doing Family Feud.
So thank you so much for watching. This was a fun episode to make. If you would please hit that subscribe bell. We're here between Thursday and Friday, getting our content out with our podcast. If you like more of the short form content, you can check us out on Gotham Graffiti Podcast on all handles and our YouTube Shorts. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.